Welcome back. All right, your UCI is ready. Let's dig into the block side of things. So we're going to go back to our design, and we're going to open up our shade control block controller and edit our script. Every time we open up a new block controller, it's just like opening up a box of...
Shade! Opening up a shade.
Oh, was that your next shade pun? Where you just wanted the...
Hey, don't worry. Our shades have you covered.
Okay, that was good. That was good. Not enough to make me laugh, but not enough to make, but not bad enough to make me admonish you. So that's a success.
That's my bar.
Okay, so what do we want to do? I'm going to start this script by making a variable. I've said it over and over again, if you're going to do it twice, make it a function. But you know what? That's true for variables too. If you're going to reference something twice, make that a variable. And we know in this one that we're going to have the up button latch the relay on for 2 seconds. And the down button's going to latch the relay on for 2 seconds. And the stop button's going to latch the relay on for 2 seconds. I'm using the word 2 a lot there. 2, 3 times. So why don't I make number 2 a variable so I can reference that variable? Because you know what? You know what, CEO of really good shade company? I don't trust your shades. I know your manual says that you gotta do it for 2 seconds, but you know what I found out in the real world? It's like actually 2.1, or it's like 2.2, right?
That's slander,
It's
sir.
inconsistent.
I'll see you in court.
You have inconsistent shades. I've always said that about you.
Quit throwing shade.
So that one's just normal. So I'm going to make a variable out of 2 so that if later on we discover that in the real world it needs a little bit of buffer, we can make it change in 1 place rather than change it in 3 places. So variable, create a global variable. We'll call this time. That one's pretty obvious. And we'll fill this in with a value of 2 for now. You never know. We might need to change it later. But now we can always just reference this variable rather than re-inputting it. Okay, as always, we're going to think it through with comments. Grab our comment block. What are we going to do? Let's see. We'll start off with relay 1. When the up button is pressed, well, now we got to think this through. If the button is on, we're going to turn on the up relay. That part we know is true. Then 2 seconds later, or time seconds later, right? Then we're going to turn off the up relay. And then what else should happen after that? We actually want to then turn the button off too, right? Because we press the button, we're not expecting someone to stand there pressing the button. That's kind of the whole point of this. We don't want to put all this information on the panel where we say, hey, user, you need to hold the button for 2 seconds in order for the shades to go up. They're never going to do that. We're taking that responsibility off of their plates and taking that on within here in the script. So they're hitting the button once. It's going to turn on and stay latched on because it's a toggle button. And then it should turn off. So we are going to also turn off the button. Okay, some of this you know already. You might even be able to beat me to it. I'll walk it through here. Race me. See if you get there before I do. We want the button up event handler. That's when the up button is pressed. If the button is on, we're going to use our flow control, right? If the button is on, and we're going to validate that by looking at the button up's Boolean. Then we're going to turn on the up relay. So we're going to go to the relay up, set its control Boolean to true. So far, so good. And haha, here's the part where we get stuck. 2 seconds later, turn off the up relay. How do we do that part? That's where we get our brand new concept that we're learning for this section, which is the simple timer. Go to timers. There's 5 blocks in here. Create timer, start a timer with a tick interval, stop a timer. There's a lot of timer stuff. Most of these have to do with a named timer. We're going to deal with named timers later in the class, I promise. Named timers let you start a timer and they run and they execute an action and then they start again and then they run and they execute their action. You can stop them, you can start them, you can interrupt them. Very important. We're going to just do this last one. After time X, do blank. This is called the simple timer. It also could be called a call after timer. What this does is it simply waits the amount of time that is in this tooth here, and then it runs all of the code that is within its little crocodile mouth. That's what we're going to do. We're going to snap it right in here. And so after 2 seconds, not 1 second, we could input 2 in here, but we made that variable for a reason, right? Let's just go grab our time variable, snap it into our call after. After 2 seconds, or however many seconds we have determined, we're going to turn off the up relay. Cool. Let's just duplicate this and snap it right in here. And then we will set the Boolean to false. Also turn off the button. Okay, turn off the button. Let's duplicate this. And we're also going to set control button up Boolean to false. That covers all of our bases. Okay, so something important to know about this call after, this simple timer, is that it cannot be stopped. Once the code hits this line right here, nothing in the world, short of a power outage, I guess, will prevent the system from turning off that button 2 seconds later. This is intended. If you need something where you could potentially prevent this from occurring if something else happens before the time has elapsed, that's when you want a named timer. This is for something that will happen no matter what. And it's also really important to note that the script continues to run down its code no matter what. It is not waiting for this to complete before it goes on. If I grab a debug string, I'm going to go to my system, and I print something at the end of this, I'm going to say function complete. Okay, and I'm going to put another one of these within my call after. This is going to be timer elapsed. If you're reading this from the top to bottom, you would think that it's going to do this, it's going to run that, it's going to run that, it's going to run timer elapsed, and then at the end of it all, it's going to go to function complete. And if I emulate this and look at my UCI, we'll see if that is true or not. So pop it into emulation mode. I hit my up button, go back on over to my script. Dun, dun, dun. Well, look at that. It said function complete before it said timer elapsed, because the time call after does not stop the script. It does not make the script wait 2 seconds before continuing down the line. This entire block starts its timer, and then the script goes on to the next line, which was debug print function complete, while this time is still ticking down. It's like putting something on the back burner of your stove. You don't wait for the rice to boil. You boil right, yeah, you don't wait for that before you start cooking your chicken. You start it boiling, and then you cook the chicken, and then the water's boiling, and it all happens at the same time. I'm an expert cook. I know what I'm talking about. You boil chicken with rice, right, Patrick?
This is making me want to retch.
You exist solely on chicken and rice, to my understanding,
That's
and
true.
broccoli.
That's true. Not anymore.
Okay, good. It runs in the background, right? It runs in the background. Nothing's going to stop it from running while it continues to execute its code. So I'm going to kill those debug prints. We don't really need those. That part's functional. That part's functional so far, so good. Let's just duplicate that for our down relay and our stop relay. This should be pretty simple. I'm going to duplicate this, make a little space for myself, say when button down changes, when button down is pressed, if button down Boolean is true, if the button is on, we're going to turn on the down relay. We're going to say relay down Boolean should be true after time. Then we're going to turn off relay down and turn off button down. Make sure you get all these right. If you miss one of these, it's real easy to mess your code up. Then when you go troubleshooting, you're like, why is this not behaving? Make sure you look at every single line of code. Whenever you copy and paste something like this is one of the easier ways to make some mistakes by missing something to update along the way. Doing the same thing for the button stop. On control button stop change when stop button is pressed. If the button is pressed on, then we're going to turn on, what are we turning on? We're turning on both the up and down relays. That's what our API told us, right? It said, hey, in order to stop it, we got to turn both of these on and off It's 2 seconds later. So we're setting relay down to true, and we're setting relay up to true. We're doing both of those things for the stop. And then after 2 seconds, we are turning off both relays, which means that we are setting relay down to false. We're duplicating that. We're also setting relay up to false. And then we're turning off the button stop. These all, make sure you get the right choices on all of these. You gotta get it right. Just think it through. What is actually going to happen? Make the right corrections. This should all be functional. All right, so theoretically, I can now go to my class UCI and my emulator UCI. Turn the lights on. I am going to hit the down button, and voila. Look at that. We have actual shades in the emulator that actually move for you. It's not the most fluid, dynamic animation in the world. I'm not going to lie. This is a little bit like playing an early Sierra adventure game at the moment, but it works. Why? Because we're making layers happen on the UCI. We're not actually animating anything.
That is only slightly more satisfying than boiled chicken, water, rice.
That's my favorite lunch is just the water, just the boiled chicken water.
I think that's how salmonella happens.
If I hit the up button, then those shades will go all the way up. Look, even the room gets a little bit dimmer. Look, nice little touch there. And if I actually press the down button and then I hit the stop, then sure enough, it will stay where it was at. All right, the shades work. Emulator proves that it works.